Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Welcome back. Been a little bit. I had to skip last week. My apologies for that. I didn't intend to skip last week, in full disclosure. I had a pretty tasty episode lined up, and sadly, I made a rookie mistake, and I formatted my memory card with the conversation on it. And what formatting a card means is it erases anything that's on there. My whole conversation with Beatty, who is a rapper in the city, he's been a very well-known rapper over the last long time, very long time. I've had him on here a couple times already previously, and he currently has an album that's out right now called Lord Byron. And he came over like a month ago. Like, his album just dropped a couple days ago, but he came over like a month and a half ago, maybe even longer. We had a great conversation, obviously, we're buddies, and it's been cool to, see him over the years, and it's been cool to be able to talk to him over the years and kind of, build that kind of relationship with him as someone who was a fan growing up. You know what I mean? Like, I observed him going to local shows. I observed what he was doing, and, I was a fan of his work. You know what I mean? He was part of that whole pivotal moment in the scene. And he still is part of it. And he's fucking killing it still. This album, Lord Byron, I'm telling you, it's out right now. Check it out. It's just like, bars. That's pretty much what it is. Great quality work. And my apologies to Beatty for, making this rookie mistake. And like I said, my apologies to all yinz out there, because it was a good talk, and I still got to experience it. So, that's great on my end, but unfortunately it's gone into existence. And, I'm going to make it a point to, do my due diligence for this never to happen again. I've never done this before in 5.5 years. And I felt that it was important to kind of be, transparent about what, transpired with last week. I didn't plan on taking that week off, but it all was kind of serendipitous because I was going away on vacation. I went to a festival, saw some, I guess country western, bluegrass, folk, southern rock artists down in West Virginia at the West Virginia Fairgrounds at a festival called Healing Appalachia, which was a benefit of, the battle against opioid addiction in Appalachia. And it's a super good cause. And I'm honestly, I had a better time than I ever expected. The music down there was insane. Charles Wesley Godwin, who is an up and coming, just ripper in the scene. The reason that I'm even bringing this up is because my previous guest, Reed Connolly, he was on a few weeks ago. He is a steel guitar player, but he plays for Charles Wesley Godwin. But unfortunately, he wasn't at this festival because he was playing with Zach Bryan, who is also another guy that's walking on the moon in country music. So it's just like, I feel like it's a great time. It's just a good time. And I don't know. I feel like I've been excited recently. I've been very excited. I had a good time at this festival, and life has just been going well. We got some shit in the works. I got the show at Bottle Rocket coming up Friday the 13th with Odd Pittsburgh. It's called Three Rivers Tales of Terror, and tickets. I think that there's literally only 20 tickets left out of 140. So if you want to get them, bottlerocketpgh.com. But basically what this is we're having a Halloween special. Me and Odd Pittsburgh are going to curate a wonderful list of spooky stories and historical hauntings that are around Pittsburgh. We're putting together this show as we've done the past 2 times at Bottle Rocket. It's this incredible venue up in Pittsburgh, or up in Allentown rather, and I'm so excited about it. Friday the 13th. What is better? October, what's better to talk spooky stuff than on Friday the 13th? It's actually my anniversary. My wife was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's do that on our anniversary. That's dope. And that's why my wife's the best. But it's going to be a hell of a time. Like I said, I think that there's less than 20 tickets still available right now. So if you're interested in it, I urge you to buy some tickets. It's going to be a spooky good time. I'm trying to formulate a little plan to maybe go to a local haunted house after. We're going to be done with the show around like 9:30, 9:45. And I mean, if it's Friday night, Friday the 13th, I would like to formulate some sort of a plan. So I don't know. I'm going to try to figure some stuff out, but I would love to see you. We would love to see you. Me, John, and Chris at Bottle Rocket. We would all love to see you. So it's going to be a great time. I can't urge you enough. If you're looking for some fun stuff to do for the spooky season, that is it. Three Rivers Tales of Terror. It's going to be a spooky good time. But, we're out here just ripping. We're out here just doing everything. I appreciate everyone's support as usual. T-shirts are still selling. Patreon subscribers, I appreciate everyone that's still subscribed to the Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the podcast, I got a website, I'llCallYouRightBack.com. I got some great T-shirts and merchandise on there. And if you don't want to, if you want to support a different way, I'm on Patreon. It's the future right now. You could use the internet. I'll call you right back. Everything will pop up. I appreciate it. Thank yous all for supporting me and keeping this going for sure. But the reason that we're here, I know I had to talk business for a little bit. I had to talk about what's been happening in life, but we're here. We're the reason that everyone is here this week. This week, I sit down with a very special guest, one of my favorite people that I've met that has, came into my life very randomly. Michael Patrick, who is a tattoo artist in the city of Pittsburgh. I've been getting tattooed by him for over 10 years now, and I was driving home and I was thinking, like, tattoo artist is kind of weird because he's almost like your barber. These are people that are just very random that you just like trust, you go to, but you end up having like these incredible conversations with. Because my tattoo artist, I'm sitting there with him for 6 hours sometimes. And luckily for me, he is a talker himself and quite an interesting fellow. Michael Patrick is, he just has a great story. I've had him on a couple times in the past, but a reason for his coming back now is he just opened a brand new tattoo parlor. Dearly Beloved is brand new. It's over in Dormont. He is now just creating something a little bit different than what you've got in the past with Milestone Tattoo, his previous tattoo shop. Dearly Beloved is ran by Michael and Ashley, his partner in life and his partner in business, and they are doing a hell of a job. I actually got to go check it out, and it's such a cool place. It's such like a hidden gem. It's right by where the Hollywood Theater is in Dormont. It's brand new. You know what I mean? I don't even know if he technically had like an official date, a pop off yet. I think he said that it's going to be mid-April. He's going to have like a formal opening, but he's tattooing in there currently. So hit him up. But as I said, I've been getting tattooed from him for a long, long time. He's always been a great guy to me, and I was very, very excited to see, his progress in life. You know what I mean? He's always been someone who has been leveling up constantly. He never settles, and he's always just striving to do better. And his partner, Ashley, is beginning to tattoo herself, and they are just really, really creating like a whole new avenue to go down for the future. And they're doing a damn good job at it because Dearly Beloved is it's a place. It's not just a tattoo shop anymore. It's a place to go see. It's a spectacle. It's an attraction. It's a place to go check out beyond just wanting to go get a tattoo. And I think that he did a good job, and I think Ashley did a great job to put both of their interests and their loves together to create something really, really special and dearly beloved. So I want you to enjoy the conversation with me and Michael Patrick. We talk about some great stuff from his, beginning, how he jumped into being a tattoo artist to, how he ultimately wanted to, level up his game one step further and create this sort of welcoming environment that is a different level than just being a typical, pop in and get a tattoo and leave. So appreciate yinz as usual. And without further ado, episode 257 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Michael Patrick.
I gotta use the telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. I just bought a book, though, that I'm probably going to read after what I'm reading now. It's called The Troop, and it's by this guy named Nick Cutter, and it's this fucked up book, I guess, and there's a blurb on it that Stephen King says, like, scared the hell out of me, like, real horror, and it's about, like, a scout leader who takes these scouts out, like, once a year, I think.
Sounds really familiar.
I got on Goodreads. Do you know what that is?
No.
It's basically like Rotten Tomatoes, but it's for books. So you could like.
Do I need a headset?
Yeah. Toss these on. It'll be. It's been a while since you've been here. This is. Does that sound good?
Testing.
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, that's
nice.
way better. Does your sound good?
As long as it sounds good to you.
Yeah, it's good for me. Yeah, I don't know. I've been. How often do you read?
Not hardly as much
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah.
Were you a reader?
No.
Yeah.
No. The only reason I think I even know how to read is because like I read so many comic books as a
Yeah.
kid. That was like my first job.
Do you still keep up to comic books?
The only thing that I'm reading now is I started rereading like all the TMNT books.
Yeah.
All the original run Ninja Turtles. But
Yeah.
other than that, like it takes me a lot to get into a book, like a lot. It has to like grab me with the first, 3 pages. I just realized that these were coasters.
Oh yeah, these are new editions. These are new editions from a friend. She sent them over because she's like one of the few people that I know that read.
Yeah.
Her and her brother. I had him on. He published a book, but he. Them two are the only ones that I know read, really. So I hit them up and I was like, what are some books that your must reads? And the first one that they recommended, I couldn't put it down. I read it in a day. It's called City of Thieves. It was amazing. I've talked about it on here a bunch now, but it was good. And I don't know, dude, reading it's interesting. Comic books, though, it's interesting that like, so you grew up reading comics?
That was my first job. Yeah.
Working at a comic book store?
Oh yeah.
How old were you?
Oh, I was. It was like a school thing, right? Like, one of like the electives is you can get like certain businesses would give students part-time jobs to like learn like business aspects of things when I was in high school, or middle school actually. So it had to have been when I was like maybe 15.
Yeah.
And you would just go there. You didn't get paid. You would just like, like kind of work. So I guess it wasn't technically
a work
real
study.
job. Yeah, exactly. So it taught you the business and I just happened to get into that one. Normally they didn't do comic book stores, right? Normally, it would be like a different career. Like you would go, I think there was some like vets. Like you could go do like
all different things.
Yeah,
like
go clean cages out of
welders. Go
just
see
like
all
stuff
that.
like that. But I actually went and I talked to the comic book store that I bought all my comics from, and they're like, "Oh yeah, like we can totally open that up." And so it was kind of like just me that got to do it, and that was really cool because every like Wednesday and Thursday was their new comic book day, so that's when I would work and I would take all the new comics and put them with all the subscriptions. So when people came in,
Yeah.
they'd just be able to pull from their box.
Yeah, it's cool to be a part of that, like, you know, that little club. Working at a comic book shop,
Yeah.
you know, you were doing artwork as a kid?
Oh yeah, yeah.
When did that start again?
And probably like when I was 5.
5 years old.
yeah.
And who got you into that? Pull up on that mic a little bit.
It was my brother. My brother drew and did a lot of art.
Yeah.
So I pretty much just copied everything that he did.
How much older?
He's about 4 years older than me.
And like, what kind of stuff was he drawing?
We all drew, G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
We drew, Ninja Turtles. We drew basic comic book stuff.
Yeah.
So I've always been into comic books. That's how I learned to draw. And then from comics, I kind of got a little bit into graffiti. But I was like terrible at spray paint. So
Yeah.
I just kept on paper.
That makes sense. So coming up, like, what are your ideas of what you wanted to be, you know, coming out of school? If you're going to a work study at a comic book store, what are your ideas?
I always wanted to be a comic book artist. Like I wanted to work drawing comics. And of course, when I started that work study in a comic book store,
Yeah.
that was like at the height of comics, right? That's when Image Comics came out.
Yeah.
I got first issues of everything, like the first issues of Spawn, the first issues of Wildcat, and all those brand new titles, right? And that was like the height of comics. And once that was over, I mean, it was pretty much dead until, Disney picked it up. And that's the reason why comics are now,
As big as they are again.
yeah.
That's interesting.
But I wanted to draw comic books, and I went and I met a couple big name artists at conventions, and they all basically said the same thing, and that was, you don't want to do this, And I was like, oh, this has been my dream forever, and now you're telling me that like there's just too many of you, and no one's, I would end up having to draw some like shit title, for the rest of my life. And,
Yeah.
I can't create my own, like that's the only way that I would even get to be a comic book artist is if I came up with my own character, my own story, and then made my own publishing company. That's
Yeah.
really the only way. It's like self-made.
Like there was a lot of saturation back then.
Oh, it was so much.
And what what year is this?
Oh man. I would say like 90,
95?
maybe even earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 90, 93.
That's interesting because I was too young to know what the comic book like world was like back then. And like, I was never really like a huge comic book guy anyway, but I recently got into them more, and I see how it is. And it's like, it's so much. It's crazy. Like how many there are, how many different ones.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty wild. What, like, was that like a reality that you could, like you knew that was like a realistic career back then that you like pursued? Or
Yeah,
was that
I thought
just
it was
like-
real.
Yeah.
I thought it was real, and it was something that I spent literally every day of my life doing. Drawing comic book characters and
Yeah.
and even coming up with storylines. But then when it like life comes in, when reality hits, it's like, well, maybe this is something I can't do, right? Like the struggle of saying, well, I have to get a real job, and I have to like pay bills, and I have to, do all these things. And at that time, I just didn't think that I would ever reach that level.
Yeah.
right?
Before you would need to be a functioning adult.
Yeah, and I think it's a lot of it has to do with, just like as you get older, your dreams just constantly get crushed. You know what I mean? And you don't know, like you don't want to waste time pursuing dreams that are just going to get broken.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the American dream is realizing that don't follow those because you'll end up in a hole and you'll end up broken. But luckily, I just had this like fire that I refused to let go of. So I knew if I wasn't going to be a comic book artist, that I still wanted to be an artist of some sort.
Yeah.
Right. Which brings me to my current career. You know what I mean? But there was no way I was going to let go of drawing. Even going to art school and having that like crushed my spirits. And
Well, back then, like whenever you're, trying to manifest like becoming a comic book artist, like I assume that like the trajectory of that is to work under a distributing company, and like they pretty much like hire a roster of artists that they have. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
So, I mean, like in your eyes, you know, at that time, was tattooing even like in your mind?
Tattooing has always been in my mind, but it wasn't like doing tattoos. I knew from a very young age that I wanted tattoos.
Yeah.
Like since I was like a little kid, like
Where do you remember seeing them?
on bikers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Like I would see them on bikers. Like if we were walking around the store, you know, and I would see someone with tattoos, I'd like run up to them and be like, let me see your tattoos.
Yeah.
Like I was just that annoying. And I knew that I always wanted them. So that's actually, you know, from comics to graffiti to drawing tattoos. And
Almost seems like a natural progression.
it was, yeah.
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 I mean, like, how do you, you know, back then before social media and everything, you know, how do you start to, you know, educate yourself on like the path you want to hone in on? You know what I mean?
There was, yeah, because there wasn't really any, I mean, the internet was there, right? So you could like, every once in a while you'd come across like a video.
Yeah.
There was like no information.
Yeah, it's not like a YouTube now where you can just type in tattoos and see a million things.
Yeah. So it was mainly books.
Yeah, that's so
Right.
fascinating to think about that, because how old are you?
44.
So, I mean, like, it's crazy to think that, like, you know, in that just little bit of time, all the resources that, you know, the other generation has compared to the other one. It's like
That's
very
why-
lopsided growing up.
Yeah. And honestly, that's why kids are coming up so fast now.
Yeah.
Right. Like in every industry, they're just like popping up and they're successful. Like
You see
right
a
off the
10-year-old
bat. Yeah.
skateboarder that is like better than Rodney Mullen ever could have been back then, because like they're growing up watching these things from a young age, realizing like, oh, that's a possibility. But, you know, if you start skateboarding whenever there's only one or two videos of people doing the same things, like getting a little air out of a bowl, then you're like, oh, I'm going to start like inventing things. That's pretty crazy to think about. Just having to source things out of books and like encyclopedias and shit.
Well, even like, you know, skateboarding, you could go buy a skate magazine, but those are still photos. So you're like, I don't know how that guy does it. But when they started making skateboard videos, you had to wait like a year for the next one. And then you're like, oh, that's a whole new group of tricks. So now I have to go out and learn all these groups. So it was like the time difference is so long. Like you don't even know that you could do that trick until you see someone else do it. And then you're like, oh shit.
It seems overwhelming back then, because back then it seems like a gradual adaptation to the times, you know, but now it's just like, you know, it's coming so fast. It's like, you got to keep up with all this shit. You know, back then it's like, it probably, you know, it grew very, very slowly, you know, as people figured shit out, but now people just see it and they're just off and ripping. That's interesting. So back then, in like, you're deciding on like tattooing, what does it look like, you know, the process of becoming a tattoo artist back then, from your eyes? Like, what did you envision it as?
I mean, you didn't really have like like there was no blueprint, right? Like if you wanted to learn how to tattoo, you had to go find someone to teach you. There was no information. There hasn't been, there was like one book that was written. It was called From Tattooing from A to Z. And it was all the technical. And then, I don't know, 20 years later, finally another book got written called Reinventing the Tattoo. So the only way to learn how to tattoo was to find someone who taught you. You couldn't hop on the internet
and buy fake skin.
Yeah, you couldn't
and all
do
that
any
shit.
of that. You know, you had to, if you did happen to get your hands on an actual machine, you had to like tattoo oranges or stuff like that.
Oh, really? Oranges?
Yeah, that had no real relation to skin. Or you had to make your own machine, which was just the jankiest thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So how old were you whenever you like kind of decided on it?
You know what? It's a weird story, because like I knew that at like 16 I wanted to start like getting into tattooing.
Yeah.
But you can't even walk into a shop until you're at least 18. So it's just a matter of me drawing and like looking. I bought every single tattoo magazine you could find. And slowly but surely, like you start getting tattooed, and then you start talking to the artists. You become friends with them. They see the talent that you might have, and then they'll want to take you on.
That makes sense.
So it's like, it was like a handshake, right? You had to learn that handshake to get to the next level.
Yeah, welcomed into that club a little bit.
Yeah. But
what was your first tattoo?
That I got?
Yeah.
It was like this Celtic cross on my arm from a guy.
Badass.
Yeah. It was like at the height of like Boondock Saints. I'm gonna go get this. This shit's cool. And it was done by this big biker, and his name was Armadillo Red down in
Armadillo Red.
Yeah, down in Kissimmee. I think he still tattoos down there.
Wow, what a name, Armadillo Red.
Yeah, and he had no bullshit in him.
Yeah.
If you come in with like an idea, he's like, if it's not on the wall, I'm not doing it. It's like, okay.
So you're like, all right, I'll take that cross.
Yeah, so it wasn't really even something that I wanted. I just knew that I wanted some sort of like
a start of that process. What you're 18 when you get your first tattoo?
Yeah.
And I mean, like, was was your mom into tattoos or no?
No.
Okay,
no one in my family had them.
Yeah.
She was not for it.
I think my aunt is the only one in my family. My mother's sister is the only one in my family that has a tattoo besides me. And now I just got fucking chicken nuggets on my leg and gremlins and shit.
Yeah.
So it's kind of it's a culture shock. But I was very much the same. Like my dad built at someone's tattoo shop in McKeesport. He did construction. So like it was always I was like kind of around it while they were building this thing. And I would always see these people and like, they're all like these crazy looking biker dudes. And they were probably like, somewhat bad guys, but I'm a little kid. So like, I would never know this, but they're all nice to me, and it was a cool, it was just like a cool world to like kind of look into. You're, rough and tough. And, then I remember seeing in high school, the first kid that I knew that got a tattoo. His name was Julian Hale. He listens to all these episodes. He got his name tattooed on his back, and I was like, "Holy fucking shit! This dude got a tattoo!" Wow. And like, it's crazy. Did any of your friends have tattoos?
I had an older friend named Steve, and when he went and got his initials over his stomach, right?
Wow. So,
and of course, like now I look at it, I'm like, who gets that? But but at the time it was like badass, right? So then I think he got like 3 before I was able to get my first one.
Yeah.
And it was like every time I would go with him, and it was just badass, and I would just fall more in love with getting tattooed. Even getting tattooed myself, I couldn't wait to go back and like modify more.
Yeah.
And I mean, tattoos, like I said, were way different. You didn't really get to, I guess, like pick what you wanted.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like nowadays you could walk into a shop and be like, yeah, man, I want a Gundam tattooed on
a whole sleeve of Monster Squad.
Yeah, I want some chicken nuggets, and but back then, like
it was like all wall stuff, right?
Yeah, if you went in, in the 90s and you were like, yeah, I want a McDonald's chicken nugget tattooed on me, they just tell you to get the fuck out.
Yeah,
like they would probably laugh you out the door.
But, well, how does it like go into that next step of you starting that process of almost like do you become an apprentice next?
So my roommate at the time actually became an apprentice at a shop. And so when he would come home, me and him would just tattoo talk all the time.
You're like 18, 19?
Yeah. And so that kind of got the ball rolling. When he finally got into a shop, he was basically like, let me tell you about this dude. Like, have you met Michael? And so I would go in there and basically just hang out with those guys. And then eventually I would, I started asking them questions, and they were like, listen, man, if you're going to keep asking us questions, like you just need to buy a machine.
Yeah.
Right? Like you need to be here more often.
What were you even drawing back then? Was it still comic book type stuff, or was it more like, traditional tattoo stuff?
So luckily at that point in the tattoo, right, is when New School hit.
Oh, really? That long ago?
Yeah. New School hit in the mid to late 90s. But it was a lot different than it was now. It was basically like you take a traditional design and you just blow everything out of proportion and add a shitload of colors to it. And that's New School. It had big old fat lines. And so you basically took every image you could see and tried to warp it as much as you could.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you take a square, a cube dice, and you just twist it as much as you could. You add a light source to it. You just kept piling it on, right? So that's the kind of stuff that I drew. It was very graffiti style.
And that's how you kind of like picked that, because that's what you're known for now. But back then, is that like, are you apprehensive to not try to fall under the norm of tattooing to be able to like, excel a little faster? if you're doing different stuff and you're like, no one's doing this shit that I'm doing, and who knows if people are going to like this stuff. Like, what was the most common type things to get tattooed back then?
Tribal.
Oh, really?
Yeah, tribal was actually the most common. And I didn't like tribal. I didn't like doing tribal. I personally just kept drawing and drawing what I thought tattoos should be.
Yeah.
And then, like convincing people to get those. That's pretty much how I made my way through. And it also helped me learn how to tattoo because I was already tattooing things that I was familiar with and not things that other people drew and I had to pull off the wall. Like,
that makes sense.
I tried to redraw everything from the very beginning. And you get a lot of shit for that, right? A lot of the older guys are like, why would you put that weird thing on him? That's not what it looks like. And you're just like, I don't know, man. I just want to keep doing my thing.
Just figuring it out.
After tattooing for 20 years, that's everyone. Like nobody pulls anything off the wall anymore. Like if you're still pulling shit off the wall, then you're like, I don't know, like
it's almost like
you're lazy. It's almost like a lazy thing.
Yeah.
And not to say that, even traditional guys now draw their own shit.
Yeah.
And they put their little twist on it. Everyone has like their little artist signature.
So do you mean like, back then people would like buy like images to put on the wall to tattoo, like, or would it be like their drawings?
It's worse than that. So there was tattoo supply companies, right?
Oh my God.
And they would create these books, right? And it was called Cherry Creek, right? Cherry Creek Flash. And it was the ugliest single line images, and they would mass produce them into like these sheets of flash. Like one sheet would just have like tons of different butterflies on it. Another sheet would have a ton of cherries on it. Another sheet would have a bunch of roses on it. And they would just keep recycling these images. So everyone was tattooing the exact same images because there was nothing else.
Wow.
No one was drawing their own shit at the time.
So that wasn't like a real common thing?
No.
Man, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, the only reason we have traditional is because you look back at like the Sailor Jerry and all those guys, like they drew up their stuff because there was nothing at all.
Yeah.
Right. And from that, it went through this like process of like, oh, well, we'll just create everything in that exact same style. And then from there, it just
kind of morphed.
Expanding. Yeah, it just kept going.
That's interesting. So you after that, like you get your own tattoo machine?
Yeah.
What does a tattoo machine cost back then? Do you have any idea? You remember?
It was $250.
And is that like is there like a magazine you have to mail away for, or is it like, where do you buy them back then?
So typically
talking to you like you're fucking 80 or something.
Back then.
Yeah.
So basically there was always an artist that built the machines.
Oh,
right?
really?
So everyone would go buy a machine from that particular person. Luckily, I got my machine from a guy in Europe. It was Mickey Sharps was his name. And at the time, he was like the epitome of a machine builder. Like if you didn't have a Mickey Sharps, then you weren't doing tattoos right. And I got it. Like I worked really hard, and my mom let me put it on her credit card. And she was like super hesitant. She was like, "I'm gonna get my fucking identity stolen." And luckily I got it, and I used that one machine to do all my lining and shading for years, right?
Yeah.
Until I could afford another machine. But yeah, it would just, some guy would like, he was a manufacturer, and he would build custom machines, and then if he had any left, you would buy one from him.
Do you still have that machine?
I do, yeah.
Now, like, if you were to try to use that now, is it like pretty shitty?
No, it would still run perfect.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But I mean, like, not even the mechanics of it, but like, the technology. Is there anything like, could you still use that and it would still, tattoo fine?
I could probably tattoo even better with that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, your first tattoo, like, what was your experience of your first tattoo that you did?
It was terrifying. Yeah, dude. Like,
what was it? Tribal.
So yeah, it was actually, it was like this little tribal design.
Tasmanian devil under a tribal logo.
It was on this girl, and this is like where I'm like rooted in tattooing right here, because I was tattooing her, and I knew that I shouldn't have been tattooing her, right? I didn't have enough information to do what I was doing. And it showed, right? It came out shitty. It looked like I was eating her up. And at one point,
Where was it at on her body?
it was on her ankle.
Okay.
And at one point I just had to like step back and be like,
I fucked your shit up.
yeah. Like I had to take full responsibility of like what I had done. Right.
It was that bad?
Yeah. And this is
Okay.
before, like I said, before I even started apprenticing. This was, like when I took my roommate's stuff and I was like, oh, I'm going to do a tattoo.
Yeah, like before you even became an apprentice,
Yeah.
this is like the first one. And how'd you even find that canvas?
They were just hanging at the house.
Yeah.
It
You were
was like,
like,
a
"I'll fuck
little
you up."
punk rock house. And I was like, fuck it. And it was at that moment, I was like, I'm never touching a machine again.
Were you like 20?
No, I was younger than that. I had
Yeah.
to have been like 17.
Wow.
Right. It was, yeah. And I was like, I'm never, and I actually didn't even pick up another tattoo machine until I was like 21.
Wow.
Because that scared me so bad. Like I didn't want to do that to someone else ever again.
What are you doing for work back then?
Man, I was doing landscaping.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
just typical shit like that.
Yeah. I worked at Checkers for a while. Then I went to art school and I kind of realized that there was like way too many people graduating with the graphic design degree that there just was no job. So it was
Oh,
a
yeah,
dumb move.
I forgot you said you went for graphic design.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Small world.
Yeah. So, yeah, but it wasn't until I got like actual training, like someone sat down with me and was like, this is how you do it right.
Who does that for you?
His name was Christian, and he actually had a studio behind the Art Institute. Now, the guy that got me into tattooing and pretty much taught me and guided me most of the way, his name was Mark Patrick. He owns a shop in Millville called Hometown Tattoo.
Still has it?
Yeah. Him and I have like followed each other all over the country, right? Like he moved to Pittsburgh with me, and then I moved out to Colorado with him, and then we lived in Florida together.
Oh, wow.
And for some reason, we never actually worked in the same shop. But he's a really good traditional artist. Like
Yeah.
he's always stayed very true to that traditional form where I've kind of expanded. But he taught me most of everything. But I didn't, until I met Christian. He's the one that kind of like sat me down and was like, no, this is called needle depth, and this is called, he basically laid out the technical side of it.
Yeah. How long does it take you to get a handle where you're like, all right, where I'm going to attempt another tattoo?
Not long at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I immediately gained the confidence.
Oh, after you figured out the proper way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Like all these things kind of like clicked in my head over the years of talking tattoo talk.
Yeah.
Everything was just like dominoes. And then I tattooed myself and that came out well. And then I tattooed him and that came out well. And then I did a half sleeve on my brother like 2 weeks later. Yeah.
No way.
Yeah.
How's that look now?
It's terrible. It's if I were to do it today,
Yeah,
right?
obviously,
Like that,
but
it would be.
What
fucking
you're
killer.
21 back then, 22?
Yeah.
That's crazy. And I mean, you're 22 years later in the game.
Yeah.
My goodness. So this is all happening down in Florida.
No, this is all over the world.
Oh, this is all over the world. You're doing this?
I wouldn't say the world. That was a little.
Well,
extended.
U.S.
Yeah.
Where? So like, where are you at this time where you're doing these tattoos? Where this guy's teaching you, Christian?
Here in Pittsburgh.
Oh, really?
Right? Yeah.
Okay.
And then after he closed that shop down, I moved back to Orlando and I worked at a street shop, and that's kind of where I cut my teeth.
Like taking walk-ins and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. And I just did everything that came through the door to build up my stamina.
How was that?
It was just stressful.
I bet you it was interesting though.
Yeah.
You probably had all different types of people in there.
I mean, I worked, 7 days a week.
And is it
10
wall
hours a
stuff?
day.
It's all wall.
Yeah, it was all wall stuff.
And back then, did you dislike doing that? Or did you know that I'm just getting my reps in?
So I knew that it was just getting my reps in, but each tattoo that I did, I kept adding a little bit of me to it.
Yeah.
And then over time, even though I was pulling it off the wall, it wasn't looking like what was
Yeah,
on
you
the
were
wall.
still making it your own.
Yeah.
Were you fucking people up?
No.
Oh, that's good.
I mean, I wouldn't say that they were good tattoos.
Yeah, but
I
you're not
wasn't,
chewing
fucking
people up.
them
Yeah.
If I look at them now, I'm like, damn, that's terrible.
You see some people that have some of your
yeah.
first runs. That's awesome. So how long do you do that?
For 5 years.
I mean, just reps, 5 years.
Yeah. It's, what is it? The 1,000 hour
10,000
rule? 10
hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That holds true, right?
Yeah.
So by doing that, working every day constantly, you start little by little building up your skill set.
Yeah, and your muscle memory, like you're
Yeah.
learning all that. Now, are you drawing your own stuff and doing your own tattoos now too?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And this is after I left Florida, I went to Colorado, and they expected a lot more from me, right?
In what way?
Because it was a custom shop.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So when people came in, they
cater
wanted you
to them.
You wanted to draw things up for them.
You felt
Because they
confident
had-
in that, like
Yeah.
creating your own, rather than like I'm sure there's people that probably feel confident in just like grabbing some flash off a wall, but like there's other people that probably want to just like add their own into it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, because like I said, you're getting further down. This is the internet is now a thing.
Yeah.
And people are looking at other people's tattoos, and
Wanting to get better by seeing what other people are
MySpace
doing.
is up.
Yeah.
So people are like posting tattoos, and the world is expecting more out of their tattoo artists. So you had to draw to kind of keep up with that.
And are you drawing like, are you still doing like pleasure? Like you're drawing for pleasure back then?
At that point, even still to this day,
Yeah.
it's hard to find time to just
That's what I
create
figure.
something that you don't want to put out there to sell.
Yeah.
So
I feel like you do a good job with it now though. I mean, like I feel like some of the stuff that I see that you put out, like your turtles and like, the nuggets and everything. I mean, that's the perks about like, working your way up to where you are now,
yeah.
which is, it's pretty incredible. So, I mean, like for you cutting your teeth and moving around the world, so to speak, where do you, like, when do you settle on here? And like, is there a lot more after Colorado before Pittsburgh?
No, from Colorado, I came right to Pittsburgh.
Why do you come here?
Mainly because I had a sort of a base here.
Yeah. Like a tie here.
Like, yeah, I had friends here. I knew that I didn't want to go back to Florida. And so
What year is this?
had to be like maybe 2005.
Yeah.
So I came back to Pittsburgh, and then I got a job down in the South Side.
Yeah.
And it was like a trial basis, he said. And luckily, I just hit the ground running, man. Like I already had so many designs.
You felt
I started
confident?
tattooing so many people, and I mean that's basically where I tattooed Zach.
Yeah.
You know what I
Like
mean? Like
that's
Zach
how.
came in with that wild idea, and it's like, okay,
Which one was it? It was a Virgin Mary
It was the Virgin Mary with
with the Louis Vuitton.
Yeah,
and that's still one of the sickest tattoos. I mean, like he was the first person that got tattoos where I like was aware of them and like, man, those are fucking sick. Like there was people. I knew other people that had tattoos, but they were like tattoos that they got at a tattoo party that were a little bit less than perfect, we'll say. Yeah. And this kid in my high school, I remember he got a deer tattoo, but it looked like a dog with like a stick tattooed on tied on his head, like the Grinch dog.
Yeah.
But it was supposed to be like a buck. And I'm like, man, that's going to be there forever. But he was the first person that I seen with like, that actively got tattoos as like a 17, 18, 19-year-old. And it's like, I'm like starting to salivate where I'm like, I'm going to be getting tattoos. And like, I always knew that guy that like my dad built his shop. So it was like, my mother forbid it though. I would have been outcast, if I would have got a tattoo. So I was just frightened until I became an adult at 18 and then I got a hidden one. But it's funny because you worked down there. We met you down there. I didn't know that you were here as soon, like 2 years before that. I didn't know that. Now, what were your abilities as a tattoo artist? Would you say that you were like, you thought you were like, were you good?
In my head, I was fucking badass.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But like when I look back at that guy, it's like I don't even recognize that guy anymore.
I would hope so because like I don't recognize who I was fucking 10 years ago. I'm almost like grossed out by who I was 10 years ago. You grow.
Yeah, there's like a whenever you become a tattooer, you have to have a level of arrogance.
Yeah.
Right. To be able to do what you're doing to people. And that kind of goes to your head. And it takes a few years for you to like get humbled.
Yeah.
By the next guy who is actually killing it and he's not even saying a word about it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I got to try way harder. Right.
Yeah.
But at that point, I was at my I wasn't that humble. Right. So I was just trying to do super cool tattoos and, the internet is putting out really cool tattoos. So people have a better idea of the originality that they could get.
Yeah.
When someone like Zach comes in and he's like, yeah, dude, I want a Virgin Mary with the Louis Vuitton. No one has ever done that tattoo before.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever, and I have to be the guy that starts that off.
Yeah.
Right. So if someone else comes in, 2 years from that, then at a different shop and he's like, oh man, I want to get a Virgin Mary with a Louis Vuitton, robe. And he looks it up and he sees mine, he's going to make his 3 times better.
Yeah.
Right. Like the evolution. And so when you have that much like publicity of rad tattoos,
Yeah.
it just took off, man. Like wildfire.
Yeah. I mean, like I remember like deciding on my tattoo and I remember like seeing your style. I remember looking at Zach's tattoos and I liked the whole new school style. There was other people that had traditional stuff, but something about yours with the colors like always popped to me and I enjoyed that. But it's funny because like I don't ever remember you being like any sort of like cocky at all. And I feel like I was so intimidated to come get tattooed by you because it was like, my first tattoo, I didn't know how I was going to feel. I was going to the South Side that as like a 18 or 19-year-old, didn't know you. But I remember feeling some sort of calm whenever you were like, dude, that's my favorite fucking movie. So we'll do something good. And I was like, all right. But I remember being intimidated. But then like, I feel like anytime I've been tattooed by you, we've talked at great length about, good conversation, had solid conversation. And I've spent some time under your delicate arm getting tattooed.
I mean, honestly, I feel like that's my hook, right? Is that like, I get personal.
Yeah.
Like my clients become my friends. Or, even, just, I have that about me that it keeps them coming back. So I look at those tattoos way back then as I may have not have done the best job.
Yeah.
But like
the experience,
it was the experience.
Yeah.
Right. So, every tattoo that I do now, I try to create that great experience. So when they leave, they're not just leaving with a great tattoo, but they're like, man, yeah, like I have a really comfortable opinion about that person.
I agree with that. And I feel that, I feel like I would almost have anxiety if I was being tattooed for, I think the longest I probably sat with you was like, I remember one time it was maybe like 7.5 hours. Yeah. But if I wasn't able to talk to the person and they had headphones in, I feel like I would probably feel like I was going to explode. Yeah. So I mean, it's a good experience to be able to have that. Obviously, it's an awesome experience to be able to get a good tattoo, but it's even a better experience to have like a good conversation. It makes the time go by. It makes the throbbing pain in your leg not as sharp. Yeah. But and I mean it's crazy. But so you were down South Side. You went through another shop. You went to Milestone.
I went to Artisan.
Yeah.
After
that.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
Almost 2 years.
Was that long?
Yeah, I think it might have been like a year and a half that I was there.
Yeah, and then I mean, like, what makes you move there? And I mean, you ultimately wanted to make your own shop, right? I didn't
want to own my own shop at that time.
Really?
I don't know if I ever wanted to own my own shop at that time.
Why not?
Just because it was too much. I wasn't ready to just be in one spot. I wasn't ready to just settle down. I knew that there was a lot of other places I wanted to tattoo.
Yeah.
It just, by circumstance that I ended up with my own shop.
Yeah.
Just working at other shops, you're like, there's so many personalities. Most artists are fickle and emotional.
You want to create your own world.
Yeah. Yeah. I never got the experience. I never got to give the full experience of the style of tattooing I wanted to do in other shops.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. I always had to kind of like follow their rules and play by their game. And you're constantly working around, those attitudes, I guess.
Yeah, I guess like everyone, like every shop has their own like, wavelength they're on.
Yeah.
You want to try to like, march to their beat of their drum a little bit, fit in a little bit more.
Yeah. And most tattoo shops that you walk into look like tattoo shops. So,
yeah.
Like I said, I wanted to kind of create something a little bit better.
And how did you end up in Dormont?
I mean, that's just where I lived. I just happened to find a place.
Yeah.
I mean, you've been to that place. I just happened to find a small little studio that I could kind of like make my stand.
Yeah.
You know?
And that one, the first one you had over there was like only a few like blocks down from where you are now, right?
Yeah.
Now, how long were you in that one?
8 years.
8 years in that first one? Was it really that long?
So, yeah. So after being in all those other shops, I kind of just knew that I just needed to put my head down and I just needed to create beautiful tattoos.
Yeah.
Right. I needed to get rid of like all the outside influences and just make good tattoos. And I think I just had a lot of bad experiences working in traditional shops that I knew that I couldn't go back to them. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to give someone so much of a percentage anymore.
Yeah.
That I kind of just needed to make the stand on my own. Unfortunately, I feel like I worked by myself for too long, which created a lot of like hermit tendencies.
Like you want to be by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the more you're alone, the more you're like, oh, I'm comfortable being alone.
And it's like I can manage this by myself. Like I don't need to add in this crazy, wild factor that you have no control over.
Yeah, but it comes to a point where you're like, you know what, I have to be in the world.
Yeah.
Right. I can't just like 8 years went by and I was like,
it's pretty wild that it was that long.
Yeah, it was 8 years. And I wasn't doing conventions. I wasn't like getting out there. I was becoming irrelevant.
Yeah.
I guess.
Just like focusing on, your own little island, living on your own little island over there. The people that knew about you.
Yeah.
And like, that's what you kind of was working on. Now, so how did you go from the next place?
From Milestone to this one?
No, Milestone to the second Milestone location.
Which one?
Well, didn't you have the first one? You had the first one that was, next across from the Moon place.
Oh, so I was actually only in that spot for like a year.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was going to say,
that place was that was a dump. Which is why I had to get out of there.
I was so confused for a second. You were like, oh yeah, I was in that for 8 years. And I was like, there's no way.
Yeah,
you ignore.
that moment didn't happen because I was leaving that other shop and I just needed to find a place. And I thought that I could jump in there and just fix that up.
Yeah.
But it was unfixable. It was such a, like, I would have to put so much money into this space that I just thought was ugly.
As a customer though, I thought it was a cool environment, to get tattooed in there. It felt like a tattoo shop. It felt but it felt like your own, Yeah. I got tattooed in there a couple of times, I think, in that year. And then you moved into the spot that you were in now. Now, how'd that happen?
The spot that I'm in now?
No. Like the second, the official Milestone, not the one that you ignored.
Yeah. So I decided that I had to get out of that other place because there was just no way the money that I would have to put into that place to get it to look, clean and professional was way more than I had at the time. So luckily, just looking around the neighborhood, I was able to find that little studio. And it was like half the rent. And I was like, this is perfect.
And a good size.
Yeah. And for just me, it was perfect. And over the years, I just kind of made it more me. Yeah. And I just loved being there. And it was like the perfect environment to create.
Yeah. And now one of the reasons we're like, talking about this all is like, you just opened this incredible new spot. Yeah. Now, how does this come to be? And now Ashley's tattooing a little bit, and it's like, how does this all come to be? I feel like this all popped up pretty suddenly, and it's exciting. I got to come and see your spot, and it's, it honestly blew me away. I didn't expect it to be as put together. I feel like you were just like, yeah, it's here now. And I went there, and it was pretty crazy.
So I would say for a year, I was looking for a bigger spot.
Yeah.
In every place that we looked, I found something wrong with it. Yeah. And I was like, nope, not going to work. So, at this point, Ashley's like, you know what? I'm going to stop looking for places for you. Like, just stay here, cause you're not choosing any of these places. Yeah. And it was while we were coming back from looking at a place over on the north side, we were looking at a place, and that place ended up being even smaller than the place I was at, for like twice the amount of rent.
Oh, wow.
So at that point I was like, I guess I'm just going to stay where I'm at. because it's it's cheap rent and I don't have to worry about it. Right. And while we're driving back, we were driving down Potomac Avenue and Ashley was like, "Oh, that place is for rent. You want to stop and look at it?" And I was immediately like, "No, I'm just going to go to the shop." Like I was so discouraged. And so she decided to take a walk down there while I was working. And she sends me a text message being like, "This is the place," right? Like it's amazing. It's like, we need to call this guy right now. So she actually did like all like the
legwork.
phone. Yeah. All the legwork. Because I was so discouraged. I was like, I'll just stay here.
Yeah.
And, so like after I was done working, we walked down there and I looked at it and I was like, this has potential, right? Like there were certain elements to it, that we'll get into that I was like, I have to have it. So hopefully the guy isn't going to charge me a shitload of rent for being on Potomac.
Yeah.
And he was really cool about it. So when we went in and looked at it, he gave us a number and then we, left and then we came back with a counter offer. And luckily we were able to kind of negotiate a deal.
Yeah.
Right? So the way I looked at it is my lease was ending at my shop and I could re-sign for another 3 years. And then after that 3 years, try to find another studio.
Yeah.
That at that time, the prices of retail could be astronomical, right? Like Dormont's slowly coming up. So I could either stay at my shop for 3 years and then worry about how much I'll pay for rent after that 3 years, or I could take the cheaper rent that we negotiated.
Yeah.
And after those, 3 years, I'll still have a decent, rent, right? Because that was actually my main concern, was making sure that I could afford the place by myself without any other artists.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not going to be like jacked up crazy.
Yeah, because when a shop owner can't pay all his shit by himself, he hires whoever.
Yeah.
And that's when you get bad reps and that's when you get shitty artists. So luckily the dominoes just kept falling into place. And, every time something popped up, Ashley would take care of it. Like all the permits she took care of.
She actively wanted to tattoo at this time?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And like, how long has she been doing that?
Maybe like 6 months.
Okay.
She's been talking about it for years, but I never really felt like I could teach anyone.
Yeah.
Right. Like I don't feel like I have like, I know what I do, but I just don't know how to tell people.
Communicate it to people.
So, she kind of took it upon herself to like talk to the city of Dormont and talk to the landlord and kind of work it all out. So it was easy for me to make this decision.
Yeah.
But of course, like that original place, I knew that it was going to take a good bit of money, to make this happen. And luckily I had been saving, for, I don't know, 8 years.
Yeah. Well, what's your idea of what you wanted to create?
So, I mean, I wanted to create an experience that when people came into, it didn't look like a tattoo shop. It didn't feel like a tattoo shop, a place that they immediately were like comfortable.
Yeah.
Like you walk in and you're like, oh man, like I enjoy being here.
I said it felt like a parlor.
Yeah. I feel nice being here. Create just an environment, right? Like an experience. So when you left, even if you didn't get tattooed, it still made a long lasting kind of impression, something original, that I could kind of give back to the industry.
Yeah. Beyond your tattoos.
Yeah. Cause I didn't want a shop that you could pick stuff off the walls. I didn't want a shop that was blatantly like, this is a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
This is all we do. You know?
That's interesting. And dearly beloved, how does the name come to be? Because you were Milestone for all these years.
Yeah.
And why did Milestone? Why was that the name?
Because that's exactly what it was.
Milestone in your life, right?
Yeah. It was that milestone. And I always felt like, tattoos are milestones.
Yeah.
Right. Like different, that's how you remember different points of your life is, like, oh, I remember where I was when I got this tattoo. That was a milestone. Or, even for me, owning the shop was a milestone. I felt like it was a strong name and you couldn't really make fun of it, right? Because that's how you pick names, so people can't make fun of it.
Yeah.
And it just felt strong, right? It felt serious. So whenever we decided that we were going to do this bigger shop, I knew that I had to put that to rest, right? Like it was what it was. That shop was what it was. It's time to move on, and I can't bring any of that with me. I needed to start from scratch, a whole revamp.
And where does the name come from? Dearly Beloved.
So it kind of was just like, it goes with our theming, right? Like the whole Dearly Beloved, is what that shop is. It's what we are.
Yeah.
You know, that this is a Dearly Beloved tattoo shop. It kind of like, I guess, commits to the whole, I'm trying to think of what,
Like the whole brand in its entirety.
Yeah. There's a whole aesthetic that goes with it, right? We wanted to create a place, that was kind of like
Its own world, its own vibe.
Yeah. So nothing, no other names that we were coming up with kind of like felt the same. And then we just agreed on Dearly Beloved. It just felt right.
Yeah.
It's what starts the ceremony. You know what I mean? Like this is the beginning of something grand,
I like that.
Yeah. We weren't really thinking of a wedding thing. But that's just how that starts, Dearly Beloved. It's what we want you to feel when you walk through the door.
I feel like whenever I hear Dearly Beloved, I don't know why I thought of a funeral, but it's a wedding, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. Now, I think it's interesting because as soon as I walked up to the shop, you see the lettering on the front window.
Yeah.
Christian from Brush and Pounce, does very, very good work. You got him to do this, I thought that the story that you told me about how that came to be was very interesting, about how you just needed someone else to do it completely.
Yeah. Yeah. We gave him just a few small ideas, some kind of Victorian funeral cards and Valentine's, and he created the entire thing. And when he presented it to us, my first thought was like, I don't know if this is going to work, this, because I have my tattoo brain. But I love the fact that it was coming from him.
Yeah.
And it was his interpretation. It was organic.
Yeah.
What he came up with was just so organic that I was like, that's exactly what it has to be. Because if I think about it, if I try to design the whole thing.
Yeah. You said you'll look at it a week later and be sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I would absolutely be sick of it. It needed to be something,
neutral.
Yeah.
It was from a neutral ground, neutral parties did it.
Yeah. When people drive by and you read it, and if you don't see the word tattoo underneath it, you have no idea.
Yeah, you really don't.
It's a mystery.
You really have no idea what it looks like. It does not look like, you're a tattoo artist or a tattoo shop. It looks like, some sort of parlor. You see this, table that's donned with all these ornate wares and soaps and everything, incredible candles. Yeah. It is like a shop. Your tattoo shop, Milestone was a tattoo shop. You go in there, you have a little place to sit, but it wasn't it very much felt like you didn't go there unless you were getting a tattoo.
Yeah.
But, Dearly Beloved feels like a place you just go and check out, even if,
that's
not really doing it.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's a place that you could just go and just look in every little corner, and just see something different. There's literally something to look at in every little part of it.
Mm-hmm.
That's unique. And I didn't want people to look at or look in the window and know that it was a tattoo shop.
Yeah.
I wanted people to be confused by it. I wanted it to hold some sort of mystery, because that's what it does for me. It's a magical place that I can go and I can create and I can feel comfortable creating. and hopefully, be able to bring other people in to have that same feeling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted the name, the paint on the window, the interior, all of it is to confuse you.
How difficult was it to, formulate a plan and execute the design on the inside of it?
It was, so I had a budget, right? I knew I had a budget going into it. And I did not realize that it was going to cost way more than that. So luckily I had my contractor, his name is Ron Craig, and this dude, we were walking through the building, right? It was just like bare bones.
Yeah.
And I was like, just throwing out the craziest ideas, right? Like, this is what I want here. This is what I want there. And he was just like, we can do it. We can do it. And if it wasn't for him just being like, we can do it, like, I probably would have backed out it a couple times.
Yeah.
But every crazy idea that I had, he was like,
let's do it.
We could do it. Yeah. And I was talking about the floor. And
Shout out Ron Craig.
Yeah. And then he was throwing out crazy ideas too. Like the floor is herringbone.
Yeah, it's incredible. The floor is immediately what you see when you walk in.
Yeah, it's epic. And when he said herringbone, I had to Google it, and I was like, "What the hell is he talking about?" Like, but I'm like, keep throwing out crazy ideas, right? I need people in my life to throw out things that I would never think of.
Yeah,
because that's what's going to make something great. Is the marriage of all these people's.
It's
ideas.
a beautiful thing whenever you are confident and secure in yourself to be able to take other people's opinions. Yeah. Even in this, like I'm not as receptive as I could be, but Antoinette will give me an idea, and I just need to not be such a fucking stubborn asshole sometimes and listen to what she says. For instance, I made a reel the other day, I made it too long. Okay. She was like, dude, this is too long. She was like, this is way too long. And I'm like, no, it ain't. It's fine. People are watching it. She shows me the analytics where it tells you where people drop off. And it's like, it was like a 35-second reel. They drop off at 8 seconds. Yeah. And she's like, you see, you don't ever fucking listen. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I need to listen.
Dude, a good woman will shut you up, right?
Anyone with a good idea, you just got to be able to listen to it and take it in.
Yeah. There's so many times where I've done the same thing. And I needed that voice back here to be like,
yeah. Ron Craig, put some herringbone down.
Yeah, put some herringbone down. If you walk into the shop and if you know Ashley, you can see a lot of her in there as well, because she had a lot of ideas as well, and she did most of the decorating.
Yeah.
There's so many times where I would get home from work and she's like, we got to go pick up this couch, and I'm like, really?
I asked you about that couch because it looked dope. Yeah, I mean, there's cool stuff in there. Your little, what did you call it up top? What do you call that area?
It's slowly being referred to as the library.
Yeah, the library.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. That's a good vibe. I can't remember if that's what you said whenever we were up there before, but it's a cool little, the whole thing is a very comfy vibe. And then, after all this, you're like, oh yeah, go look in the bathroom, and the bathroom is wild. So you got to tell me the context behind, Dolly Parton themed bathroom.
It's something that you wouldn't normally, I think, expect.
Yeah.
Right? You walk in and the whole place feels, very Victorian, a little gothic, right? And then you just have this pink bathroom with Dolly Parton memorabilia all over it.
I love it.
And it started out as a joke, right? At my original shop, I had a Dolly Parton prayer candle, and then someone was like, "Oh, you like Dolly Parton?" I'm like, "Who doesn't?" And then the next time they came in, they bring me a boot from the Dolly Parton Roundup, whatever. And then someone else brings me something, and it just kept snowballing.
Building on itself.
So I had this shelf that was just full of Dolly Parton stuff. And I kept making a joke that if I keep getting more, I'm just going to have to turn my bathroom into it. And it just kind of clicked when we decided to get the new place. I was like, that's what I'm going to do. It's going to be this whole, I'm just going to blow it all out and make the whole thing Dolly Parton. Because I knew that I wanted to theme out a bathroom, and I threw out a couple ideas that just didn't hit as well.
Yeah.
One of the ideas was I'm going to do a Fallout 4 bathroom. Right. And when we looked at the bathroom, before we rented the place, it already looked like a Fallout 4 bathroom. So I was like, nobody wants to take a shit in a place that they could, looks like they can get an infection.
Yeah, you want to look at Dolly.
Yeah, you want to look at Dolly. And I think it's really funny, like when you're walking, you're peeing in front of Dolly Parton, which is just like kind of, I don't know, funny to me.
Yeah,
like
it's funny.
You're taking a shit and you look over and
funny situation,
she's staring at you.
Yeah, that's all it is. At Bottle Rocket, they have like someone like looking down at the urinal and it says, "Don't worry, I'm not looking." And that stuff makes me laugh. I like that. But now, in addition to the great tattoos you can get there, you have these wares. I bought a couple of these candles. Insane. What's the brand of them?
Hex and Wax.
Hex and Wax.
Hex and Wax candles.
Hex and Wax candles.
Hex and
Unreal.
Wax, yeah. And then there's Cellar Door Bath Supplies.
Cellar Door Bath Supplies and Hex and Wax candles. Yeah. So how do you decide on these wares, or is that more Ashley?
That's all Ashley.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because you've always had a very keen eye to detail. Like you always make these like elaborate boxes and, these candles, clothes, everything. Like you're always very, very, intricate with your workings.
We, we used to own, I wouldn't say own, we used to run kind of an alternative Disney apparel company.
Yeah.
So a lot of that's where it comes from. That was all Ashley's idea. She's been loving these candles and these soaps and room sprays for so long that it just made sense to bring them in. They're the same kind of vibe.
Yeah, for sure.
So
it's definitely a vibe. Like it's a I feel like it's well executed.
It's been taken. Everything in there is like a labor of love. It's all precurious.
Yeah. Precurious.
Yeah.
What's that word mean?
It's like
aloof.
Yeah, it's not like almost like it's not supposed to be there, but it is there.
Yeah.
Or just like strange in a way.
Interesting, peculiar.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
And that's kind of like the vibe we want to go. And so basically it's setting up for a whole experience. You know, when you come in and you smell the smells and you just immediately it puts you in a different state of when you're walking into a normal tattoo shop and you don't know who to talk to.
Yeah.
And you have to like walk up to this counter and hope someone says hi to you, or it's more inviting.
Yeah. I would say so. Have you been tattooing in there?
I have. Yeah. The last few weeks we've
Feels
done a
good?
soft open. Yeah.
Feels good.
I'm getting used to my surroundings. Like I'm not even facing the same direction I am. So I have to learn where everything is again.
Yeah.
And get all that muscle memory again. But I feel like it's putting wrinkles on my brain. If
that's good. Yeah. It's making it working it out a little bit more.
Yeah. Taking me out of my
on your
comfort
toes.
zone.
Get on your toes.
So
that's good.
Everything I've done in there. I felt really comfortable doing. I'm excited to see the next step of it. Once we do our grand opening.
When's this?
So hopefully October. So we're going to do it in October. We're going to put out some invitations to people that we know we want to show up, and then just open it up to the public to come in, check it out, look around.
Yeah.
Basically, unveil ourselves to Dormont and Pittsburgh. And it's really funny because all the, people come by and they're like, "Oh, it looks so pretty. Congratulations. Welcome to the neighborhood." And I'm just like, I've been here.
Yeah.
Like I've been here for a while, like for 8 years.
Just not on the main road where everyone's walking back and forth.
Yeah.
But it's a whole different world, I bet. Now, I mean, what are your goals as a shop? I mean, obviously it's new, and you, didn't even officially have your open yet, but what are the goals there?
So, I think the goal is to just create a place that people want to go to, even if you're not getting tattooed.
Yeah,
you want to go there and look at it. We've set up, the spaces in the front. We've set up for people to take pictures.
Yeah,
to look around, to buy things that they wouldn't normally be able to buy other places. Just create a destination.
Yeah,
almost.
destination.
And get a tattoo while you're there.
Are you now? I mean, do you want to go beyond even tattooing to the point where, you know, doing any sort of like events or something like that? Because I feel like it's, you know, the place that you have now is almost like set up for more than just tattoos.
So I think it is. I don't know if I would actually like be able to hold events there.
Yeah.
Just because of the way that the tattooing area is set up.
Yeah,
You know,
I guess
that's
so.
something you would have to like close up because people will mess with shit. They will.
It's a good point.
So like I always thought that I would create like a gallery space.
Yeah.
You know, where you know you could have like an event like that where there would be, you know, like light food, light drinks. But even that, it's like
It's cumbersome.
yeah, it would take a lot for me to kind of open my space that far.
Yeah. To that chaos.
Yeah,
Especially brand new.
Yeah. So at this point, I just really want people to constantly be amazed by it. So whatever I need to do to keep evolving it to make people more curious about it.
Yeah.
You know? Like I said, I want it to be a destination. I want other artists in Pittsburgh to stop by whenever they're in the neighborhood to check it out. You know, I want a you know, it's going to be a safe space for anyone that wants to come and take a look at it. There's a lot of animosity between tattooers in Pittsburgh, but that's not something that I want at this shop. You know, if any other tattoo artists are even hearing this, you're welcome. You're welcome to come in, take a look around, go upstairs, like grab something to drink, whatever. You know, it's
Got a stocked fridge, Capri
Yeah.
Suns,
Yeah,
seltzers,
Yeah.
got anything you need in there.
I'm just excited for people to take a look at what I've created.
Yeah,
You know?
it's definitely a cool spot.
What we've created. Yeah.
I was definitely, you know, I it's not that I wasn't giving you credit, but you were like, oh yeah, I'm opening the new shop. I didn't think it was going to be what it was that you already have done right there, but it's there. It's ready to roll. I'm excited for that.
This weekend, we just started putting in the finishing touches, which is like a railing up front. And it's going to have like a little velvet rope to kind of like keep the artist from having people walk directly up to them. But
Yeah.
it's turning out so much better than I ever thought it would. And I just really hope that other people appreciate it as much as I do.
Yeah.
And, you know, stop by and, you know, just be curious, you know?
I love it.
Yeah.
What do you have planned for Halloween?
So we already started decorating for Halloween. I think that since we're going to do our grand opening during October, I want to throw a big Halloween costume party.
Oh, wow.
So hopefully that will get kicked off. That's still like a lot to put together.
Yeah, for
You know what
sure.
I mean, for someone who does events, it's really hard to even find the energy to like make.
It makes me sick.
Yeah, make the invitations, make all the posts.
Dude,
You know,
I'm reaching out today to make things to get printed. I got to pick up on Wednesday. You're just like, you know, it makes me sick.
yeah, my to-do list is super long. So I'm trying to like find the motivation every day that I wake up to be like, all right, I got to tackle at least 3 things.
Well, it's crazy because you're building this shop and then like the work that you do, it's not like that you could just like, you have to draw these things, which is, you know, time consuming in itself. And then, you know, I don't know, it stresses me out to even think about it just because it takes me forever to do any sort of art, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah, because in between I have to make new business cards. I have to make shop shirts. I have to make appointment cards.
Yeah.
And then I have to draw for my clients.
Yeah.
And it's just like a
Bunch of plates spinning in the air.
Never ending, you know, laundry list of things to do. But I kind of like thrive in that chaos. That's when I know that I'm getting things done. But hopefully for the grand's opening, you know, there will be invitations coming out. It will be catered, and you know, just try to attract as much attention as I can.
Yeah.
You know, I know that the windows do a lot of the attracting. As soon as people see it, they're like, what is, I need to go look in the window.
A gold flake.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And, yeah.
What
So-
is you know, for you to you know, October's coming up and like you are a big Halloween person. What are your plans in that regard? Like, what do you guys you're going down to Florida again?
Yeah. Yeah. So on the 20th to the 23rd, I have Anime Inc. that I'll be doing down in Richmond, Virginia. And then from there, we're going straight to Orlando to do, Mickey's Halloween Not So Scary Party. We're going to do the Universal.
It's the best.
Yeah.
Every year you tell me about it, and I was like, I have to get down there. And we went, and it was the best.
Yeah. So this year's the Universal haunted houses are really, really great. They're doing a Last of Us house.
You had an Evil Dead house?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
Chucky house.
Let me ask you this. So you're going to the anime, you said you're going to that anime Inc. convention. Like, how do you approach a convention? Like, do you already have people that you're already going to tattoo, or do you have stuff drawn?
Yeah, I actually both. So I know that
you take walk-ups?
So the problem with taking walk-ups is they have ideas that they could get at any shop in their neighborhood. So you want to kind of like guide them to a proper way. This is Anime Inc. So most of the stuff that you want to do is anime stuff. So if someone comes up to you and if they're just a walk-in, they'd be like, can I get this name? And it's like, well, that's not anime. So I don't want to do something that's not anime. So typically I'll have drawings, ranging anywhere from $100 to $300. If I'm not booked that day.
Yeah.
So if I have time, I'll put my drawings out and see if I snag anything. If not, I really just enjoy my time there.
Yeah, you like the conventions?
Yeah.
I feel like it would be a fun environment.
There's so much to look at.
Yeah,
right?
just like walking around and everything. I feel like it would be fun to look at all that stuff.
There's so much good art there. There's people in cosplay. Like it sounds weird, but it like works.
Yeah.
And it's just such a it's the only convention that I've done that doesn't have like a bunch of egos. Like everyone's sitting around, like brooding on who's tougher. Like everyone is just a nerd.
Yeah.
Like we're all just
pumped for each other's stuff.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it's super great environment. It's healthy to be around all those positive people.
Yeah.
So I look forward to that every year.
Well, that's good. All right. You want to get to the ending segment?
What do you got?
All right. Ending segment that I do with everyone is an ending segment called Desert Island Questions. All right. Ending segment is whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island and use until they starve to death and die. First category is movies to take with you. So I asked people to pick movies, but I told you to think of some horror movies that were your favorite because we're shifting into the Halloween time. I know that you love Halloween. That's something we've always bonded over. And like I'm shifting my mind in there. I'm about to get all my decorations out. And I just want to hear about some horror movies. Like, what do you enjoy?
So
you write them down? I love it.
I had to make a list. Right?
I love it.
So when you tell me to think of like my favorite horror movies, right?
Yeah.
I thought about it and I'm like, there's difference between Halloween movies and horror movies.
I agree with that.
So
like The Descent is a horror movie. It's not necessarily
number 4.
Descent?
Down here, number 4. Yeah. It's
so
like
good.
Number 4.
Dude,
Descent.
the movie's so fucking good.
So yeah, that's my 4th one. Descent, because it's one of those movies that like it did its job.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought about horror movies that did their job for me.
That's so cool that it's on your list.
Yeah, it's on my list because it's one of those things that's like it's terrifying.
Dude,
Not
you're
only
going
you're
caving and like you don't
claustrophobic,
expect it. It's not like there's no
pool.
ghosts that are coming at you.
Yeah.
It's not paranormal and it like scares the shit out of you.
Yeah. But starting with number 1, It Follows.
I feel like I've only watched like a part of it and I need to watch it again, but that always comes up on like all the lists of good ones.
Dude, it's because it's like you have this thing that follows you and you have to literally fuck over someone else to get it away from you and then hope that they fuck over someone else.
Yeah.
And to the point where it can't make its way back to you. Right?
Yeah.
That's terrifying. It could take any shape. So that's number 1. Number 2 I put on here is Us.
Oh, that was a good one. Yeah.
Because like just the whole premise, I wish there was more. I wish there was more to that universe because I need to know what still happens.
Yeah, he makes some wild ones for sure.
Yeah. I put Halloween on here just because I feel like it shapes.
Which one then?
The very first one.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Because it just shapes everything that I am to this day.
Yeah.
Then there's The Descent.
Man, and I feel like that it's underrated. I feel like people don't talk about it enough. It's like a hidden gem that people don't know about.
Yeah, and because that's a horror movie.
Yeah,
right?
horror.
Because it triggers like senses in you.
Absolutely.
And number 5 is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
It's crazy. Just like insane.
Yeah, and the reason I put that one on there is because I remember when that came out, it was like everyone kept saying it was based on a true story.
Yeah.
Right. And at that time, there was no way to prove that it wasn't, right? and you really didn't hear like about bad shit in the world. So when you hear about like this family that down in Texas, it's like this movie was based off of.
Yeah.
You kind of like, oh, there's scary shit in the world. And for some reason, dude, that just
Thought it was real, and it was just
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah.
it based off of like loosely based off true stuff?
I don't know.
Yeah,
don't even
I
know
guess
anymore. Like, I just know at the time I was like, there's a Texas Chainsaw Massacre guy running around.
Yeah.
I was young.
that was always like lore that I heard too, where I was
Yeah.
like, they never caught him.
Yeah,
And you're
yeah, he's still-
he's still
yeah,
running around. He
he's a
could
science
pop
teacher.
up on. He got away. I just saw. I was reading like this list because me and Ryan. People that are listening, me and Ryan. Ryan is a person that every year we do a haunted movie or a Halloween movie episode, but we're trying to decide on like the theme of this year's Halloween movie episode. And it's hard to we don't want to just keep beating a dead horse. So I think this year what we're going to do is 5 foreign films and then 5 like older horror movies from here. But I don't even know where I was getting with it at, but I was looking at all these lists of like impactful horror movies, and there was one, I can't remember what Texas Chainsaw Massacre was, but Matthew McConaughey is in it. And I don't remember, I think it might be 2 maybe, but that's one that I've never seen, but they said that one was crazy. And then I remember reading an article about Texas Chainsaw Massacre saying that like one of the scenes where like they're at the dinner table and they're all like wailing was like actually like true, I guess. Like they're
Really?
like people were having like heat stroke or something because of how hot it was. And I don't know, it's like one of them weird lores that you hear about. But you go to any haunted houses around here? Do you do that?
I do the 100 Acre Manor. That's
Yeah.
always that's like a tradition. That's what starts off.
They're already open. They open
Yeah.
on Friday. We were
Yeah.
about to go, but we had shit going on.
It's hard for me to really like. I need to wait for the nights to get cooler.
Yeah, hoodies.
yeah. I
Gotta have
can't
a
wait
hoodie.
for that.
It's coming soon. It's coming soon. I'm excited about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm just pumped for Halloween. I know that you thrive in Halloween as well.
Oh, yeah.
And it's good. Have you seen any new horror movies recently? Did you watch Barbarian?
I haven't. Ashley's been trying to get me to watch it, and she keeps saying that she wants
should.
to watch that dude get breastfed, and I'm just like, I don't know if I can fucking handle it.
It's a
right?
good movie
Like,
though. I was very, very pleasantly surprised by it.
I did see. I guess it's not a horror movie, but the last movie that I saw was Don't Worry, Darling.
Oh yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Did you
that
like
was-
it?
I did.
Yeah, it was good. I like her. I love Florence Pugh.
She's
She's crazy. I feel like
Yeah.
she's almost like a Sharon Stone s like could
Yeah.
be a nut.
Yeah.
Did you see Talk to Me?
Not yet. That's actually. I think we're waiting for that to come to streaming.
I think it's this week.
Yeah.
But a lot of good stuff coming out. I'm pumped for it. I'm pumped for Halloween. Okay, so you picked your movies. Second category. We talked about books. Do you have any books or like what's your favorite? Like, if you can tell me your favorite comic book and your favorite book that you've read, could you do that?
My favorite book that I've ever read was American Gods.
What's that about?
It's by Neil Gaiman, and it's basically
Neil Gaiman was that the Watchmen guy,
he was
or
he did Sandman.
okay, yeah.
What else did he do? He did Good Omens. He's most of his stuff is like based in mythology.
Yeah.
So American Gods is basically Odin is trying to gather all the old gods to fight all the new gods. So the new gods being like, the technology god, the internet god, cell phone god.
That's old. Is that an older book?
It's not too old. They actually did like a 2-season series of it as well. But when people moved to America and they brought their gods with them, they slowly stopped worshiping those gods. So those gods got weaker, which allowed new gods to rise up, synthetic gods.
Synthetic gods.
Synthetic gods, yeah.
Jeez.
So it's actually really brilliant the way he writes it, because he doesn't come out and tell you who any of these gods are, but through their descriptions, if you have a knowledge of those, myths, then you'll get it, and it's almost like a aha moment throughout the whole book. So
American Gods. Okay.
American Gods, yeah.
What about comic book?
I just finished the Last Ronin, which was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comic. It was a five comic series. It was a short run.
That was good.
Yeah, it was really good. They're actually going to create they're making it into a video game, and so it hit really hard. So
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. Third category, music, 3 CDs.
man, that's a tough one, right? Because there's so many good, like, I would definitely take the Dirty Heads. The Dirty Head album,
Which one?
probably their latest, because that's what I'm into right now.
Dirty Heads.
Yeah, it's really island based. And then, man, what is it? Despercitos. And then I'd probably need some something for to get my energy up. Maybe some KMFDM,
Okay.
something like that.
Okay.
Yeah,
There you go. That's good.
trying to hit everything. If you don't know what you're gonna need,
Yeah, you
take
wanna
a
have
little-
it all.
Yeah, you got to take a little variety.
Okay, that's good. Third to last question is the death row meal. Death row meal, you get to have the last meal before you get put to death. You get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert. What would they be?
My appetizer.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What is considered an appetizer?
Anything you want.
Okay.
You could start with anything you want. It's your last meal. Literally
So-
anything.
I guess with an appetizer, cheesy potatoes, and then for
From where?
homemade cheesy potatoes.
Okay.
Yeah, just salt and pepper, and then stuffed shells for my meal, and then dessert would probably key lime pie. Yeah,
Had some the other day at a golf outing.
yeah,
First time in a while.
yeah.
Very good.
Key lime pie.
All right, second to last question is you're getting ready to go on a road trip. You go into a gas station. What is your snack of choice?
Reese's.
Regular Reese's?
Oh yeah, it was a big ass bag of Reese's.
They're good. Coming out Halloween, I always buy myself one. We don't have no trick-or-treaters here. Do you get trick-or-treaters?
No, not where I'm at now. No, the only thing that's around me is a cemetery and like a Catholic school. So
Does that upset you?
not at all.
No?
No. Where I used to live, I got trick or treaters, but I'm not in town for that. So
Good point. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair. Okay. Last question. If you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Kurt Cobain. I would really like to know who killed him.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, do you remember
I'd
what you...
resurrect him, basically.
Well, do you remember what you
resurrect
picked
him.
before at all?
I don't.
I don't remember the last... Have you been on here twice, right?
Yeah. I don't know if you asked me that. No, you did.
I always ask these.
I might have said the same thing.
Yeah, I don't know. Kurt Cobain, why is that? Were you a big Nirvana fan?
I was. I kind of, you know what, him or, yeah, I would just really like to know, like what he really felt. Like
Yeah.
The way he really felt, because I mean, honestly, if he did unalive himself, I would like to know like what was truly going on there.
Yeah.
So he's always someone that interests me.
The conspiracy is what... I mean, did they say that it was a gun to the head, right?
Yeah.
Was the conspiracy that Courtney Love killed him?
That or like it was almost like,
Drug-induced paranoia type
yeah,
shit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if he
It's weird because Reddit just came up with that, and Reddit came up with... I recently heard this conspiracy about Jimi Hendrix's manager. Have you heard this? Jimi Hendrix's manager supposedly, got him killed somehow. I don't even remember how he died. Jimi Hendrix, maybe drug overdose or something.
it was, yeah.
But I think that they said that his manager did this because Jimi Hendrix was approaching like the end of their contract, and he was going to leave them or leave his manager. And before he did that, if Jimi Hendrix died, all of his music reverted back to his manager, all the royalties. So instead of him leaving and going to another manager and taking that music with him, he found a way. And I don't know if that's true or not. I feel like that it was on Reddit, and it fascinated me to hear that. I was like, huh, I never heard of that.
That's kind of how I felt with Kurt Cobain, that you know, if Courtney really wanted to make it big, she needed that stepping stone. Mm-hmm. And she needed Kurt out of the way.
All for Hole.
Yep. It didn't even go anywhere. I mean, they did some things, but I don't know if they're doing anything today.
Yeah. Are you currently watching anything?
I actually just watched The Bear.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Did you love it?
Dude, I thought I was a chef when I was done.
Fuck yeah.
Like, I wanted to go into the kitchen and
How good was that episode, The Fishes, the Christmas episode?
Dude, it was insane.
It like moved me to tears on how perfect it felt. I've been beating Antoinette's ear trying to tell her to get to watch it. She can't commit to a TV show. She doesn't watch TV.
That episode had so many celebrities in it.
Oh my God.
And when he was doing his prayer and he's like, is he still holding the fork?
Yeah. That's the best. Throws it at him.
Yeah. That scene, like, it just seemed like it was like one long continuous take.
Yeah. Like a rolling
without
take.
any cuts.
It was definitely a wild one. That might be the best episode of television ever. Like, it's up there for sure. But so do you have a definitive date for the opening of Dearly Beloved?
So I think we're going to do October 11th.
October 11th.
Yeah, I think October 11th.
That's a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's when we're, cause I think that weekend after that is the Dormont's doing their Halloween street spectacular thing, so we didn't want to do it at the same time.
Yeah,
but like a Wednesday night.
You know what else is that weekend? My show at Bottle Rocket with Odd Pittsburgh, Friday the 13th.
Friday? Oh, no way.
Yeah, it's gonna be good. You guys should come. It's gonna be a wild.
I absolutely want to come. I'm actually getting. Is it Friday the 13th?
Friday the 13th.
It is. I'm actually getting tattooed that day.
Are you?
That day,
Do you get tattooed a lot?
I don't.
When's the last time you got tattooed? While ago?
Yeah. Yeah, I want to say.
I feel like I ask you every time I come in.
It had to have been at least before the pandemic.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you going to get?
I'm getting it's a Halloween like switchblade.
Oh, I love it.
With cotton candy, or not cotton candy, candy corn.
Yeah. Why wouldn't it be a Halloween switchblade with candy?
Yeah. So I gotta find a place. It's just a little. It's gonna be a little.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting. I'm gonna come back in too. All right, give everyone the social media where they could find you. You know, the whole thing.
So it's Michael Patrick Tattooist for my Instagram, and then from there you can find the new shop, which is Dearly Beloved Tattoo Parlor on Instagram as well.
And location?
It is 1517 Potomac Avenue in Dormont.
Now, have you seen that? Have you seen the news with the Hollywood Theater? I assume.
Yes, that's exciting. That's really exciting.
You been to Row House?
Yes.
What's that place all about? I've never been there.
You know what? They're keeping cinema alive.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, right? They're doing it. You know, it's always a small venue. You know, that only holds so many people, but that's exactly what the Hollywood Theater, it needed that because it's just sitting there.
Yeah.
Right. It's like this beautiful theater. You and I went there to see the
Monster Squad.
The Monster Squad.
Yeah, he signed my leg and I got it tattooed across the street.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. You know, the dude had like a crazy heart attack.
I didn't know that. No.
Yeah, he said he almost I think that he was like pretty close to death. Oh. Yeah, like a widowmaker or some shit. But, glad that he is alive. Shout out to Andre Gower if he's listening. But I appreciate you as always. Thank you for coming over and talking to me. Everyone else that's listening, appreciate Yinz as always. Each and every week we're back with another great guest in the city doing wonderful things for us all. Thank you for listening. Call you right back.